and it's just like, what?
So
what do you
when's
do?
he signing for Complexity?
I don't know, man. We made the offer, but yeah.
He's absolutely incredible. We are almost ready for the draft. I don't know if we can drop you in just yet, but we're very close. If not, there we go. Look at that. And a couple of early bans, the Tusk and the IO. Let's just see how this one works out. But are you looking forward to this? Because I know how much you love these drafts in this tournament.
Yeah, and I really like both of these teams. They're really fun to watch draft-wise. They're very resilient. They can do lots of different things. Almost all of the early roaming heroes are going to get banned here. A lot of common heroes on Liquid getting banned. Earth Spirit, as well as the Tusk. Obviously, those heroes will work for both teams.
Yeah, Swindle's pointed out earlier, the Earth Spirit's been a very popular pick. It's no surprise to see that gone.
Are they going to let Phoenix through, though? And I think that's kind of the big question, because with Phoenix, you're facilitating defense against the tanky core strats, since Sunray is not just defensive, but also very offensive.
Sunray's a good hero.
It is.
Really
It's kind of cool that Phoenix as well just kind of got phased a little out of the meta. I mean, it was played a lot at Shanghai as well. Like the Max Sunray builds first started getting kind of popular there, even though it's played a little bit in the past. And then it just didn't get popular again. Nobody really picked it. And all of a sudden the new patch with all the armlets and all the strength heroes, it's back again, big time. So anticipating that nerf.
I hope so.
Maybe next week.
Just Sunray. We actually have been telling jokes about it. I'm fairly certain it's getting nerfed after this event.
Surely has. I was surprised it wasn't before.
Yeah, we're just, I'll be saying like, I don't know, I think we can pick this and deal with Phoenix. Like, it's easy to kill the egg. And my brother's just like, look, you can deal with Phoenix, but what about Sunray? And just like, just literally joke about how Sunray is the hero, because like you don't even need the egg to even hit anything. You just Sunray.
Egg is for a refresher.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
And then you just Sunray again. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, we've been calling it Sunray best hero for the whole week, it seems.
It's insane.
How's your brother doing with his birthday? Is he having fun?
I mean, half yes, half no, but you know, it could be worse.
Half a birthday present.
Yeah, that's a really surprising first pick. I did not see an NP coming. I mean,
it does give them really early 5-man if they want to do that.
Yeah.
It's not something they pick very often, but
that was actually
doing Phoenix is pretty obvious, I guess.
That would be probably what I would select as well. OG probably have something in mind with the MP. I actually wouldn't be surprised to see maybe even potentially like a second pick Drow perhaps, but it's really curious to me. They obviously have something in mind. I'm just not certain what. I'll be kind of disappointed with Fly if that's just like a standard draft now and they just early pick the NP. It's still a very good hero, but it's far less just first pickable as it used to be. And you're going to go the Night Stalker.
What about the block pick to prevent Liquid from having it? Because they very often open with NP. Do you feel like that's worth doing it that early for it?
Very possible. What's interesting to note is that in the previous 3 games these guys played, NP was actually banned first by OG in every single game. Okay. So I imagine they just assume that, as you say, like Liquid will take it immediately. I like the Night Stalker. That was something we thought could potentially work against Sunray, because if you get the Ags up, you can just find the Phoenix, and that's honestly just the target. It doesn't matter what other heroes your enemy has. I think you have to go for a Phoenix to just kill him at the open.
What about something like Nyx Assassin against Phoenix? Because if you just walk through Sunray and Spike Carapace, instantly stopped, right?
That was something else we think could be really good. We tried a lot of heroes and their interaction with Sunray in practice mode, because we're like, okay, how do we deal with this hero? But
there's not a good solution. Global Silence, maybe? I don't know.
But then it's like...
He's so far away. It's like so many stuns just don't work because he's too far.
It's right now, I think, it's just you have to find consistent ways to interrupt Sunray and preferably kill the Phoenix. But I think if you look at the power level of each team's opener, I think you have to give the edge to Liquid right now.
Good dual roam.
It just Doom as well is newbie prioritizes that hero above all others in Dota right now, and I think a big part of that is because he's very versatile with what he can do. Their KPI plays a very good Doom, mostly just because of his understanding of the hero. There was one game he went Vlad's Blade Mail, he's gone Treads, he's gone Greaves, and specifically his creep management, because having a Wolf, an Ice Ogre, and what he usually runs, which is very interesting, is the Purge creep. And like the Mana Boots build with Mech and Purge creep is actually so strong, because if you think about it, every creep Doom eats is an item. Like Wolf is equivalent to an item, Ice Ogre is the same, Purge creep, etc. So that's part of the reason I think that hero is just too strong right now. And it also has a natural, pretty much Midas steroid on top of that.
And you just counter so many heroes like him. The match you guys played, you just kept getting doomed when you were Slardar, and I was like, well, Slardar just doesn't work now because
hey, look,
just can't beat
there's
that.
a hero you haven't been able to play for a while.
I know. Yeah.
You miss him?
They keep banning it out against you every game.
Yeah, that's because they opened with it so many times earlier.
Well, okay, to be fair, they first picked Beastmaster like 5 times in a row, so we're just like, okay, we'll go Darkseer now.
Why? So you can do the 1v1 or what? Like, what's the advantage there? Without telling me all of your strategies.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Obviously, it does definitely win the 1v1.
Yeah.
You split push naturally very effectively against the hero, and it's mostly just, you know, Beastmaster's going to run in. He always goes Necrobook, and you just can vac wall, have your AoE clear everything.
That's true.
So just it's like you just naturally, I think, build well against him. You don't really care about the mana burn. You can build armor. You can build with a Lotus Orb. All of these nice items. And there's Avenge. I foresee a Drow here, like nearly 100%.
It's very similar to their other 5-man strat, and they said the same thing. We're gonna play really aggressive early or whatever. I knew what that meant. That's like they're gonna try to Rax at 15 minutes. It's not gonna be gank all over the place and get advantage. It's like.
But they're both gonna do it with the Lycan now as well.
It is an interesting pick just because I'm fairly certain that Phoenix is going to be support and Liquid's going to last pick. Really interesting. I will say one thing. I love the draft change. I think second pick having last pick makes the game, it's just very interesting. There are definitely distinct styles to how you play first and second. We preferred second pick coming into this event, but I think that really can go either way now. Like Radiant's winning like 70% of its games, I believe. So Dota's in a very interesting place right now, which is why I think you see so much experimentation and so many different heroes. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Drow, but right now I see Liquid's lanes being very exposed. You'll have a Darkseer, Doom, most likely paired together, Doom running around with boots and trying to get things done, but Phoenix Lycan is a very weak lane, unless they put the Lycan middle, which I have not seen them do at this event. Ooh, that is...
I'm so scared of Alchemist when Miracle's playing it. Like, you can gank him 4 times and he's still going to outfarm you.
Just don't pick Alkin to Lycan, man. That is a very curious pick, especially with Liquid having another selection left.
He dies too fast, or...
It's just like Lycan's like the natural counter to Alchemist, in my opinion. He accelerates faster, is obviously is a natural objective, just like kills objectives, and you also have Sunray in this game. So it's very nice against the Doom, but again, like Liquid's just gonna buy a bunch of teamfight items and go high ground at a point, and you've got 4 heroes that do very negligible damage. Obviously, if they get to like 40 minutes, the Rat will be very strong, but right now I think Liquid's got this draft like 80-20 at a very minimum.
What about like Wave of Terror and Acid Spray? Like, they can just fight. I feel like Lycan's just going to die really rapidly. Unless they get Ice Armor, but that'll offset some of it. But, I mean, I feel like the early team fights still won't go that amazing for them. And they have so many good right-click heroes that can maybe deal with the egg a little bit better than normal.
But can they deal with Sunray, Purge?
They have a swap. They've got Night Stalker, Void.
But that's what I mean. Like, if you look at the heroes, like Night
point.
Stalker's going to need an Ags, Alk wants Armlet Radiance. Although, if Miracle goes the Miracle build, like this is a game for it, in my opinion. I think if he goes back to his like Armlet, Solar Crest, Blink, or just Armlet, Blink, I wouldn't be surprised to see that, because this is really just not a Radiance game. Like, I promise.
I agree.
I think if they go for that build, there's just no hope, and Liquid runs away with it. Obviously, you know, maybe some crazy stuff goes down. Level 1 Roche, perhaps, but...
Maybe the last pick from OG that can gel everything together. Is there one hero that would make everything work well for OG? Like, we're looking for no-till heroes so far, right?
And some team fight. They're kind of lacking a lot of team fight compared to Liquid.
They banned the Puck. Interesting. It's a solid ban. I think that's like that hero would just wreck their team right now and just give them the initiation they need to just allow Lycan to kind of just go ham. I honestly don't know what they draft here. I'm trying to like think of something, but
this is why I pulled the heroes.
Liquid, there's Fada's hero left, so both Razor and Viper still in the pool.
Maybe
most played.
There's no I think I have a feeling it might just be like a Razor or a Viper or something. I don't really know, but I don't think either of those heroes is ideal here.
What about DP on Liquid? Could be decent against Alchemist in the laning stage.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think that's a... Liquid's got a very... And this is one of the advantages, I think, of second pick, and something we were doing and Liquid's been doing consistently, where you save your mid-hero for last pick, and you get to see the entire draft, and it's just so nice to have as a draft. You just kind of relax, because you also get first ban, so they ban into pick, and then you pick. So you have all this time. Centaur, okay.
Wow.
Okay, something we have seen from them before.
Means a no-till profit.
A no-tail profit.
Well, at the very least, Liquid has pretty darn weak disable, like basically nothing. So center ulti can definitely allow them to disengage team fights. That's why they banned Puck, I think, because they were planning to pick the Centaur right there.
Yeah, that is, if they're expecting a DP, I actually kind of like it, because you can potentially like stampede away from the ghosts, which seems kind of rudimentary, but it would get you away. The problem is, if you look at Liquid, like, they're just going to be pushing, and they need Blink on Centaur, Armlet Alk. Prophet's gonna, he'll just probably naturally accelerate, but I just, OG needs to pressure this Lycan in the laning stage. It's very important that that gets done. If they allow him a free lane, I don't see how they win this game, but it's possible, but they're gonna need to abuse like ancient stacks. They're gonna need to trade objectives very well, and guarantee they keep Roche away from Team Liquid.
And they don't really, I guess they can profit versus Darkseer 1v1 and then do a tri lane
Yeah,
with.
that's what I'm thinking. The problem is like because of the Doom factor, and there's the DP, good prediction Purge.
Cool.
I just see Liquid going high ground at like 23 minutes with all the items they need. They'll just have tons of armor and just completely ignore acid spray. I hope it's a Miracle Alk into his fighting build. I think the fighting build has a chance.
Okay.
We'll see.
Very quickly then, because we've got to go to the commentators. In one word, which draft is best?
I'm not gonna oppose him. Liquid.
Liquid. Liquid.
Cake.
What?
Liquid. You said one word, dude.
Yeah,
That's the best way I can express it.
Dear me, that was good. It was good. I liked it Purge, but it wasn't quite on point. But we get 3 Liquid choices from the draft. Let's find out whether they're right as we head over to our commentators for Game 1 of the upper bracket final.
A European rivalry that has certainly stood the test of time. Liquid and OG were early rivals going into the Frankfurt qualifier, and now here at Epicenter, they still remain to match up against each other in this upper bracket final. Surely one of the top 3 teams, or 2 of the top 3 teams here at this tournament. They've already been hugely successful, yet they still have to prove themselves over the other.
Yeah, OG have a lot to prove. They were the Frankfurt major champion. They were the ones that knocked Liquid out of that tournament as well. And it felt like during that time period when OG originally formed, they were taking Liquid out of everything. We saw them knock them out of an MLG and ESL. They weren't able to qualify for Frankfurt. So
but then Liquid stepped their game up. They managed to take second at Shanghai, and then you look at that, okay, now maybe Liquid's their stronger team. OG did dip down a little bit, but in this tournament, it seems at least, Liquid still seem to be in good form, but OG, I almost want to feel like they're kind of a rising team again, that they dipped down during Shanghai, but they're coming back up.
I mean, I think you can draw a lot of parallels between these 2 teams and how quickly they were able to rise. We saw them play time and time again in so many different finals, even at defense. We saw them play in our offices, and once more, both teams, unchanged rosters.
These 2 teams know a lot about each other too, right? The general playstyle. Talk a little bit about some of the picks that you thought were most interesting from both sides.
I think the Night Stalker from OG is probably the most interesting, just because I think it counters both teams' playstyles. And at bottom, there's going to be an engagement already.
They are going to try and battle it out for that bounty rune. Moon actually missing the stun there. Liquid managed to dodge it. The bounty rune is picked up with the Alchemist, but they might be able to pick up First Blood as Moon is going to be slowed down, but they're actually targeting Miracle instead. Jerix managing to get just barely ahead of Miracle, pushing him back, and maybe Fairy Fire keeping him alive just a little bit, and a healing salve allows Miracle to go through unscathed. No First Blood yet.
Yeah, that was a little bit greedy by Liquid. They weren't sure if they wanted to go for the Centaur or the Alk. Instead, they hedged their bets, try to go for the Alchemist instead, but good play with the Fairy Fire. He did expend almost all of his regen though, and that is the downside. And this is how we've often seen teams punish this Alchemist so far, Cap, in this tournament, by going for some sort of aggressive dual lane.
At the top lane, meanwhile, Mind Control's actually going to be taking a lot of damage from the 2 supports.
He has another Void.
Crit. They're going to go for the dive here, and they should be successful. There will be your First Blood. Not only do OG get that banner rune, they manage to keep Miracle alive, not giving up that coveted First Blood, and instead the 2 supports manage to snag that one. Miracle still in a bit of a pickle though. As you said, putting pressure on Alchemist and putting pressure on Miracle seems to be 2 of the best things to do against OG. And you can even see that Jerix, he's hoping to be able to get a courier snipe here, but I don't think it's going to happen.
No, this one seems a little bit too ambitious. Meanwhile, at bottom, the Centaur is having a pretty good laning phase as both the supports from Liquid,
Oh,
neither of them really helping out.
I thought Nightstalker was actually going to intercept those items. I thought they knew about this, but no, Jerix is going to be able to get the Icarus dive, and the Courier does end up going down. A quick TP back from Jerix, not wanting to be caught behind the tower, but still, Miracle did get delivered his salve, and his laning phase should be a little bit more manageable.
Yes. He's not going to have that bottle, though, or that Soul Ring. He decides to go for either of those builds. Going to make it hard for him to lane straight up 1v1 against the DP. Did manage to get that Ring of Regen towards him, but other than that, nothing too much, as Fly is going to contest for this top rune against Mind Control. And at bottom, they were talking about the Lycan, and this is a hero that heavily relies on having a free laning phase cap.
Mind Control unable to snag that banner rune too. Miracle picks it up though. Fada is here and they've got a lot of Ion Shell damage. Looks like Miracle's going to be the first one to go down in this one as Cryptstorm finishes them off. They do have the Furion with the extra help, so Liquid are going to try and back themselves away. The Surge might be able to get Fada out of here, but OG, they're sandwiching this middle lane. Fada, just one more right click should end up going down as No Tail picks that one up. They managed to get Miracle, but the rest of OG standing strong.
Everybody from OG rotating to try to help that situation out, and they come up well on top as even though they do grab that Alchemist and that Courier, those 2 kills going to be well worth it for them as the Nature's Prophet gets involved early, and this is what I've really liked out of OG lately. They've been getting No Tail involved in these cores that don't necessarily have to have a lot of farm to have impact, and he's really shined so far for them.
Yeah, the Beastmaster was a continual favorite by OG for No Tail, and that was probably the biggest reason why, right? It was a pretty active core, wasn't too farmy, and now we're seeing that transition into other heroes as well. The Furion being able to provide some extra assistance to Miracle when it's needed.
Yeah, it felt like in the past he just wasn't utilized to his full potential, and they kept trying to make him work as more of a 1 or traditional 2 position, and now it just feels like they've made sure to incorporate him a little bit more into their strategies, and it's really paid off.
Moon, looks like they threw down a scan on the side of Liquid, expecting a rotation coming through their jungle, but instead it's just going to come straight
really
through lane.
aggressively.
Yeah, maybe this will tip off Matumbaman. Meanwhile, the mid lane Alchemist does end up going down back to bottom. The smoke still not working out for OG. Finally, the smoke gets spoiled, but Matumbaman is far enough back he won't be caught.
Yeah, both supports trying to run forward, but Jarek finds the angle for him, but this is still only a level 2 Phoenix right now. OG are in an okay position, although their 2 supports are getting under-leveled. This just kind of feels like everybody is a little bit further behind than they're used to. Experience-wise, it does go slightly in favor of Liquid so far in this game, just because of how much pressure they've been able to exert on this mid lane. But you expect that to change at some point.
Is part of this just the meta of this matchup, that both teams know how aggressive each other can be in the beginning of the game, so they're both trying to utilize their supports like that?
Yeah, I think you noticed the Centaur's positioning too at bottom, how forward Moon was as Croaky's going to get gone on here, but...
Yeah, this is a funny little play playing around that regen rune. Doesn't look like Kuro's going to go down here. He does have the Scorch Earth, unless Moon can actually catch up Fada, slowing him down with the Spirit Siphon. Crit is going to back out away from that one. Kuro almost going down. He's trying to bait this one perhaps a little bit too much. Kuro just needs one more right click. They'll find him inside of the trees, and they're not able to get the turnaround kill onto Crit. Moon's going to take some damage, but Fada completely out of mana now. 2-4 as OG take an early lead.
And that was all of his charges used too for that one, and unable to kill anybody on that, and that is the downside of Liquid's draft right now. If you look at it, it's very lacking in disables. Their offlaner isn't really a space creator per se. Their 2 supports very contingent on having
Moon,
their
can he
core
actually
help.
do this one? He does have the nuke, and it's going to be enough to be able to get the kill. Nice read by Moon. He's already been abusing the idea of the Phoenix and Lycan, as you said, not really the strongest, like no real disables, not enough pressure to be able to push the Centaur out. But now finding some free kills, and they might be able to find another one. Matumbaman, he's going to be jumped in, slowed down by the Void. They're going to have the follow-up. Stun Furion's actually level 6 already. There's so many nukes, and now Moon comes in, charging in from the back. It's going to go for the double edge. He just needs the distance, can't quite get it. Instead gets the stun onto Jarex, and will look to finish him off, killing himself. Matumbaman manages to juke that one out. Crit doesn't actually get him. 1-for-1 trade up, but now the Vengeful Spirit's going to get taken out by the Scorched Earth, and this time around, it's going to be Liquid who respond in force to OG's aggression and manage to come out on top.
Very well done by Matumbaman there. Getting the juke around the tree lines and popping the salve that he had had for so long. Liquid, correct response right there. OG, I do like the fact that they're trying to make these aggressive plays though, with utilizing both their supports for that safe lane. We talked about how much that the Lycan needs that early laning phase to be able to be successful. And I think OG recognized that to try to put pressure on. And already such a back and forth game, 10 kills at just 6 minutes in. These teams really understand how to battle.
Crit putting a lot of pressure there. You could see that top rune is always under contest, and that's something that Liquid, the idea is correct, right? You don't want to just give away free bounty runes. You don't want to give free power runes over to a Night Stalker who's going to be roaming around at nighttime. Anything from invis, haste, or double damage could mean a death on the mid lane. So they're trying to control it, but OG seem to be just putting in the extra resources every time to get the pickup. Liquid going to be spotted out here. Will be able to get a pretty good dive, but certainly not enough for Kuro to be able to follow that up.
Yeah. What's a little bit curious about Jurex's build in this game too is that he's opted to go for 2 levels of the Fire Spirits, and I think that's in response to the type of heroes that OG have. Is
actually trying to finish off. Oh, no tail again. The level 6 comes in, managed to get that earlier ultimate early for the bottom fight. Gets another one, manages to pick up the kill 7 minutes in. Crit is going to try and juke this one out. Mind Control searching for him though, and I don't think Crit has any way out of this one. He's going to have to run through the tier 2 tower, and it looks like it's just going to be too much for him. Tier 2 by itself will be able to finish Crit off. Mind Control picks up some of that. Meanwhile, the bottom lane, they're diving in under Matumba Man. He gets off the ultimate, but the chain stuns are here. No Tail joins his teammates to go for the kill. Matumba Man is just enough to be able to pick up that kill, and now Kuro's 1v3 with the tower helping him out. Managed to get some damage onto No Tail, and all of OG are a little bit too low. In fact, Fly even dies to the Wolves, so at least they get some sort of kill in return, but Matumba Man dying early, that's just not the idea here for Liquid. We heard Swindles talk about it. The Lycan needs to have some progression. Kuro actually maybe should have backed out here as OG just do the full wraparound, dive into the tower again, and pick up the extra kill as well.
very well done by OG, recognizing the safe lane from Liquid is exposed. There's clearly no ward vision here for them, and they just continue to make the dives happen as Crit at bottom doesn't feel too threatened as nighttime does just end right now, but they don't have any disables for this.
Yeah, he doesn't have any backup either because the rest of the supports are going on a Miracle. Miracle not having Chemical Rage for another 5 seconds. Looks like he should be going down as the extra bit of damage is enough. Very excellent kill for Liquid as things, for the most part, seem to be turning up all OG with these kills.
Yeah, OG are doing the correct moves. They're abusing this Lycan right now, trying to slow him down. Of course, Liquid still getting a little bit more farm, and that's the nature of Doom as a hero, as a support. Just because you can keep recycling your Devour, you're almost always going to keep up in net worth, and that's important here. But OG, they are pressuring the right heroes. The downside right now, though, is OG haven't been able to protect Miracle, and I think Miracle, whenever his team goes for a play, he has to not show himself on that map, go deeper into the jungle. It is a little bit more of a giveaway to Liquid if they don't show that core alch, but he struggled so much that I think at this point it's worth it.
Would you agree that when Swindle said that he feels like Lycan is somewhat of a natural counter to Alchemist in that he's able to put out, pretty good physical damage earlier, he gets online just faster with his farm, and he's just going to push you down before Alchemist is ready. Would you agree with that philosophy of Lycan?
Yeah, I think it more goes to the fact that at bottom,
and just a Centaur ult pop to run away.
I think it more goes to the fact that OG's playstyle is more limited around getting lane control into map control, and heroes like Lycan can do very good against map control because of the Wolves. You send them around the map, you push the pace of the game, which is what he was talking about, and make it difficult for the Alchemists to show up to those early fights, because even with the Radiance early on, there are ways to deal with it.
Right. So in that case, it is the right idea by OG to try and put pressure on the Lycan, but at the same time, maybe they're investing too much into that, leaving Miracle out to dry.
A little bit. And if you look at OG's lineup, the one downside of it is there's almost no wave clear. They have plenty of catch and they have a lot of different ways to take fights, but there's not a lot of wave clear. So if Liquid get a little bit too strong, what you could see happening is them just five-man downing a lane and OG having to respond with some sort of team fight. And team fight scenarios against lineups that feature Doom and Phoenix are always going to be a little bit tricky.
10 minutes in, we are going to have those Tome of Experiences coming in, so some power levels coming in for some of these supports. Phoenix not going to get the level 6 straight up from that, but the Supernova obviously being more important part. Night Stalker with this Tranquils and now has a Gloves of Haste. Is this actually a Hand of Midas build for NNS?
I think it is, because at 10 minutes in, he's still only level 4. Hasn't been able to grab that level 6. Tome of Knowledge, I imagine, is already... Oh, it is still in stock, but would not put him at that level 6. And even then, Night Stalker doesn't really benefit from too many other items aside from the Aghanim Scepter. And going for that at this point when you're a level 4 Night Stalker, I think is a little bit too ambitious. So by going for the Midas, I think there's a bit more application.
Ooh, Fly in some trouble. Not going to be able to save that tier 1, that's for sure. And he's certainly not going to be able to save himself as they just run him down. Kuro will pick up the last hit with the Infernal Blade. Meanwhile, Matumba Man does have his ultimate, so OG really can't go on him. He's too tanky to get bursted down, and he's too fast for them to right-click him away. So 8-9, the score remains. I actually want to expand a little bit on the Night Stalker. Then what's the difference between this kind of build on Night Stalker and the Iron Talon?
I think by going for the Iron Talon, you have to hard commit to the jungle a lot more, whereas for going for the Hand of Midas, you can be more flexible on the map, because it is equivalent cost. And you want to make sure that you're not delaying anything. The way that Crit has to play this game, we talked about it, because Liquid's lineup will eventually just start 5-manning, and they'll start going for tier 2 towers. And so by going for the Iron Talon, you're slowing the pace of the game down too much for yourself to go for both the Iron Talon into the Hand of Midas.
So it's so important for Crit to be able to get some control in the first, like, 15 minutes before the 5-manning comes out from Liquid. He's got to get things done.
You saw what he was doing. He was being active around the map, applying pressure as much as he could to the Liquid side of the map. But there will be a time period where there's only so much that he can do, and the Hand of Midas is going to allow him to catch up.
OG thought that perhaps they could get the trade-off, the tier 1 tower at the top lane for Roshan, but they are going to get scattered out here by Liquid. Fortunately, Crit does run into them, so the smoke gank is a bit spoiled. There's not going to be a big surprise by Liquid.
Neither team wants to give this up, though. OG,
it's down to half health, but OG are taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, they just don't want to leave it because they know Liquid can take it just as fast with that Vlad's Lycan, but they're in this weird position where fighting at this Roche pit against a Phoenix.
Jump in, Jarex is going to get pop potentially. They're trying to get it before the Supernova, and they do get it with the Fury and ult. Now the Centaur ultimate goes out, and they try and close the gap. Miracle actually getting doomed up. It's now forced to retreat, but Liquid are just a bit too strong. The swap comes out, but Miracle still gets run down. Matumba Man just keeps on going. The no-tail Blade Mail goes out, but on the left-hand side, it's actually Fada in some trouble.
Fly's still not dead.
Fly's still somehow alive. He gets the Spirit Siphon on the moon, which is healing up quite a bit, and now reinforcements come back in as Liquid charge right back in. They finished off no-tail. Can't quite finish off the rest of OG, who are just on a sliver HP each. But Liquid recognize the more important objective at this point. They're going to try and finish up Roshan while Kuro scares back the rest of these heroes.
And this is fine right now, because if you look at OG, even sending them, or even killing them, they might be able to go for something like that early buyback.
They're just so desperate to actually stop this Roshan. They're trying to go in with no HP heroes, but Liquid are very clearly strong enough to be able to claim this Aegis.
Yeah, with the amount of health that they have, there's almost no chance they're going to be able to get in there, and they presume that Liquid is
jump
going to
in.
go for that
Moon managed to get a two-man stop. I can't believe he's going for this one. Miracle is here now. They know they have no Doom, but the Supernova is still up, and that spoils the fight entirely. Once Miracle sees that one, he backs out and leaves Moon to die. He's going to be chased down here by the rest of Liquid as the Sunray spots him out, trying to juke his way through the trees, but it won't happen. 11-11. Liquid tying the kill score up, and now taking the lead with the Aegis in hand.
You did see from Liquid's lineup, though, it was difficult for them to finish off those kills because they just don't have that natural ability to lock down. They do have some chase, obviously, with Death Prophet, Darkseer, and Lycan, but it doesn't really matter how fast you move if you just can't stun anybody. Still, Liquid walk away the winner of that fight, quite handily too, especially since OG wasn't getting anything during that engagement. If anything, they just kind of helped Liquid take that Roshan for free.
Yeah. And does this now speed up the 5-manning of Liquid? Do they actually try and utilize this Aegis to move forward, or is there progression in levels and items not quite fast enough?
Oh, definitely. I think you push the pace of the game right now just because of the situation. But Kuro gonna get gone on.
Can't afford too many pickoffs here, but it looks like Kuro maybe won. The silence is nice. It's really good looking. Kuro may actually survive through this. Oh my god, the Scorchers managed to keep him alive, and now the Sunray comes in punishing OG as they line up for it. Matumba Man is going to chase down both Miracle and No-Tail. No-Tail pops the ultimate. Miracle desperately trying to armlet toggle as best as possible, and he's actually doing it a little bit. Can he survive through all of this? Oh my god, he gets back to base and survives. No-Tail didn't have a chance, but Miracle, with top-notch technical precision, manages to keep himself alive, but Liquid still hold the strategic advantage.
Yeah, they're going to grab that tier 2, and they were able to save Kuro and turn things around. All of these mini engagements set back OG so much. We already talked about how they don't have the best wave clear, so these mini pickoffs are so necessary to them. Imagine if they get the Roshan, for example. Then you slow down Liquid's timings because they don't want to fight into an Aegis Alchemist. And I think that's the kind of play that they were going for. Make it so Liquid are hesitant to start their timing, and you go for these individual pickoffs. If you pick off the Doom right there, then Liquid feel hesitant. They lose one of their frontliners, Doom obviously being such an important spell to their strategy. But instead, they just lose a hero and immediately transition into a tier 2 fight. And that's really important for Liquid's lineup because with Death Prophet ultimate, where you fight is even more important.
Yeah. So continuing that thought then, if the Death Prophet ultimate, where you use it, i.e. trying to use it around team fights and then taking objectives from there, Is it important? Do you think OG should still be trying to put some aggression on Liquid and force them into those teamfight scenarios outside of OG's objectives? Or do you think they've lost too much and need to dodge from here on out?
I sort of think they've lost too much and they have to dodge and continue to look for team fights around the map. They still have pretty good ways to wave clear with the Nature's Prophet and the Alchemist, so they can always set up ganks for themselves. And that's almost always how you determine whether or not a team can go for smokes and stuff like that, if they can push out the waves pretty aggressively. And Nature's Prophet is the hero that's best at that just because he's so difficult to bring down in Liquid. We already talked about how hard it is for them to get these one-off ganks because they just don't have any disables.
Right.
Now they have some with the Yule Scepter. So it's important that OG just take hit-and-run fights more than just straight-up 5-on-5s.
And what about the Liquid side? You know you have a big advantage. First of all, it's daytime. Second of all, they've got Aegis for another 2 minutes. You said the timing here is that OG may not be able to fully fight you for towers anymore. You're talking about hit-and-run engagement. Liquid, what's their best way to maximize the next 2 minutes?
I think the best thing is take out all the tier 2 towers you can. Make sure that somebody's farming on the other side of the map. Protect your tier 1 towers if at all possible, especially that mid one. That's the long-term goal right here is Liquid. They do have the DP ults, and
this, in a way, could be their way to protect the tier 1 as they're going to keep on going, actually put some aggression. The stun comes out. Miracle does get stunned up, but also swapped out. Fly does give up his life to be able to save the carry, but now the ultimate pop by Fada as they start going for the tier 3 tower. They just keep on going forward. Stun onto Kuro, Matava Man looking forward. They actually have the Spirit Siphon onto Miracle. They're trying to chase him down, but the Sentinel comes through. The Saving Grace OG backing themselves up and trying to find another opening against Liquid. The Sunray healing these heroes up, and let's not forget that ultimate still going for the Death Prophet to jump in. Supernova goes out. OG have to target that one down, but now that vacuum and the wall that might save the Supernova. It's going to be able to explode, and OG, they lose the fight. That's 4 down to 5th. This Miracle gets chased away all the way back into the fountain. No hope of surviving, and OG, they don't even have the buybacks available to mount a full defense. This is going to be Liquid taking a full lane of racks before the 20-minute marker, and OG struggling to remain relevant in this game as Liquid just push a small advantage into so much more with a simple pick-off and one team fight inside OG's base.
18 minutes in, about to be double racks with an Alchemist not being able to do anything. He's already committed the buyback here. What an unfortunate position for OG to be in, but they still have to try to defend this racks, but this is probably going to be the melee one that goes down. Matamba Man loses the Aegis, and they have to get this kill, but Kuro gonna frontline for them, and
Kuro just taking up so much damage and still manages to get a kill on the Night Stalker. Now the Sunray comes through. Fly, he's going to be target. Miracle also. I don't even think the Armlet is going to be able to keep him alive. He does end up getting dropped, and OG, that's it. It's over. Game 1 dominantly taken by Liquid.
I could not wait to see that Wombo combo on whatever website you use just because of how cool it was. They were able to back wall back into the Phoenix Egg, made it almost impossible for OG to take that fight, and that aggression was just instant. I think OG expected Liquid to defend that tier 1 tower up at top. They didn't expect them to continue to go up bottom because the Aegis timing was starting to get a little bit low, but OG just not prepared for that level of aggression.
Absolutely. I mean, things looked pretty manageable for OG in the first, 7 to 8 minutes. They were being a little aggressive. They were finding the right kind of pickoffs, but once Liquid hit their full stride, boy, and it